Glenn, okay? I was at a young adult retreat with Glenn 2 weekends ago, okay? And this guy's hanging out with all these young whippersnappers, and this is a man of courage that's still got it, okay? He's got a lot of energy, a lot of passion for young adults. There you go, Glenn. Have fun.
Thanks. A lot of energy, or I don't know. I can say so much. Anyways, and this guy knew me back in the day when, well, I still do youth ministry. I never stopped doing youth ministry. So, courage. Even being on the stage for me is a step of courage because it's like, what does God want me to share with you guys? And so, honestly, I'm kind of nervous. So this, in and of itself, is a step of courage just being up here. So, obviously, one of the biggest steps of courage for me was giving my life to the Lord. I lived a life of drugs and alcohol growing up. In college, I spent thousands of dollars doing and dealing drugs. And then at West Virginia University, God got a hold of my heart and revealed to me my need for Him. And so it was a step of courage in putting all that down and turning my life over to Him to handle and to hold and to trust. Then I got involved with a Bible study there, and these guys were talking about purity, not kissing a girl until you get married, you know? And I'm like, well, who are you guys? It's like, that's so foreign to me because that is not what I'm used to, you know? But then really adopting that, I took on a 2-year ban of dating. It basically said, God, I trust you for my relationships, and the next woman that I'm gonna date, really I'm trusting you, will be my wife. And sure enough, 2 years later, I met my wife, and God really revealed to me, this is who I want you to marry, and you're allowed to date now. It's like, wow, that's really cool. So taking a step of courage there. The guys in my Bible study in college, they're talking about going to Daytona Beach for spring break. How many of you guys grew up or know when Daytona was the spring break capital of the world? You know? So they're talking about going to Daytona for spring break, and I'm like, yes, I'm in. I've always heard about this. I didn't know you guys did that. Sure, I'm on my way to Daytona for spring break, you know? And then I get there, and these guys, and immediately they start talking about going out on the beach and talking to people about Jesus. And I'm like, what did you guys rope me into? You know, this is ridiculous. I didn't know that's what we were doing. You know, and then after a week of hearing stories and stories and stories of these college students having incredible conversations with others about Jesus, at the end of the week, I'm like, Jesus, I want my own story. And so I said, Jesus, I'm going to go out. And this is at night. This is like the last night we were there. And I'm like, Jesus, I'm going to go out. And the first people I see, first person I see, I'm going to tell them about you. And so I go out of our hotel, take a right on A1A, heading north. You know, I'm walking down the strip and stuff and looking and not seeing anybody. And then in this motel parking lot, I see a biker gang. And I'm like, all right, Jesus, no, you don't want me to be stupid or anything like that. So I kept walking, but I felt convicted. Because I said I was going to share the gospel with the first people I saw. And so I saw this group of guys. And I'm like, all right. So I go up to the group of guys at the... and I go to the first guy closest to the street. He's polishing his bike, you know, his Harley. And I'm like, hey, my name's Glenn. I'm here with a bunch of college students learning about God. Can I tell you what I'm learning? You know, and he looks at me kind of weird, and I say, hey, my name's Glenn. I'm here with a bunch of college students learning about God. Can I tell you what I'm learning? And he's like, so he motions to his friend, yells at him in French, and so his buddy comes over in broken English and a French accent, can I help you? And I'm like, yeah, hey, my name's Glenn. I'm here with a bunch of college students learning about God. Can I tell you what I'm learning? And he's like, no, we're not about that. Ends up, these are French-Canadian businessmen who came down to Daytona for Bike Week. They're not a bike gang. I was like afraid I was going to die. But instead, these are just, you know, guys who are here just to show off their bikes and stuff. So 15 minutes later, after talking to them, I said, okay, last chance. Do you want to hear what I'm learning about God? And they're like, no, we're not interested. Well, I walked away from that thinking, man, talking about Jesus, you won't die. No one's going to kill you or anything like that. But I took a step of courage, I took a step of faith then, and God protected me. And I learned so much from that by really trusting Him and being courageous, but stepping on faith. And gentlemen, now, like, I've been living with, February 4th, 1990, whatever, we're in 35 years later? I get...
Sounds right.
35 years later, you know, I'm walking with Jesus, but every day, even now, there's steps of courage that I'm taking. Loving my wife strong. Going to her in strength, you know? Admitting when I'm wrong. When we have conflict, not running away from that, but staying present and engaged with her. And loving her, not seeing her as the enemy, but loving her well. Saying I'm sorry to my kids. Many of you guys know that I live in Stony Brook across the street. I walk with Jesus every day, talking to him, listening to him. Well, I walk on the street and I look like the Unabomber because I dress in a hoodie and I'm like got 3 layers on and stuff. You know, because I like to sweat. I even have like a sweat vest underneath, and so I'm just trying to sweat it out. Well, people see me and they're, who's that weirdo always walking on the street, you know, and stuff. So, and I see people and they know who I am and they're asking me about it, you know. And I'm just telling you, I explain to them, I like to sweat, you know, I like to just exercise and stuff like that. But I noticed I was never telling them the Jesus part. And I was like, wow, I'm sorry, Jesus. And so now whenever anybody asks me about it, I'm like, yeah, man, I'm walking and talking with Jesus. You know, I'm listening to him, I'm talking to him, you know, and so it's like, and I go to the gym in Stony Brook and stuff, and sometimes I'm late, and they're, Glenn, where were you? Oh man, I was talking to Jesus this morning, and man, listen to what he shared with me. Yeah, and so it's just daily, in and out. And then the last thing is just the biggest, well, I don't know if it's a step of courage, wisdom, whatever you call it, but it is inviting Jesus into every moment of my day and walking with him, but being present and anticipating hearing from him, but then being courageous to listen and be obedient to what he's sharing with me, you know? But it's just a day in and out grind, but with his power and through his power making the right choices. And that, I feel like is pretty courageous, you know?
Thank you, guys. It's awesome. All right, Ed, Bruce, we got a demo update. I know we got something coming on.